And welcome back, folks. This is U.S. Home Talk. And of course, we're live every Wednesday at noon. We appreciate everyone tuning in, whether it's live or later via all of the fantastic podcasting. Let's see if I can try that again. Podcasting platforms out there. Jason Walgrave here with Walgrave Real Estate Group and the Minnesota Real Estate Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus. We've got the great Marcus Walgrave with Hague Realtors. Good to see you, bro.
Of course,
I think you look clearer than I do. I have one of these high def cameras, but I don't know. Evan, you need to come and I don't know how to work technology.
So you're in.
What do you say? It's the internet?
it's your interwebs. Yep.
Interwebs. So, of course, we've got Evan here to produce the show to make sure that it actually happens. So thank you, Evan. He's also our insurance guru. So all things insurance related. We might have some insurance questions later in the show. Mike Overson, the great mortgage Mike Overson is, he's not here today, folks. He's in France right now. He sent us an email earlier today with a photo of a few dozen croissants that he is enjoying. And so if you guys know Mike, you know that Mike loves his croissants. So he's in France eating those. It's funny because I think it was on Monday. I'm up pretty early, like 4:30 every day. Jump on my computer right away and start working. So I get up, look at my email. I got an email from Overson at 3 a.m. And I had forgotten that he was out of town, out of country. And so I replied right away. I'm like, what the heck are you doing up at 3 a.m. in the morning? And he replies with, it's 7 a.m. here. So
he should have just went with it.
He should have just went with it. Yeah, he should have. So he'll be back next week. Folks, best way to get a hold of us anytime is our fantastic website, ushometalk.com. We just had it rebuilt a couple months ago. It is pretty spectacular. We've got all of our past shows on there. We've got a lot of incredible resources, whether you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, remodeling, financing, anything to do with your home. You have questions about insurance, you need an attorney. We've got some wonderful partners. So anything and everything real estate related, you can find it at ushometalk.com. We have a real estate hotline number. So during the show, you can text us your questions to 612-234-7585. Again, the hotline number is 612-234-7585. You can text during the show, and you can call or text that number anytime during the week. Excuse me. But again, best way is probably our website. We do appreciate everyone who tunes into the show live on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday at noon, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. And then we're podcasted on all the streaming platforms afterwards. So welcome. What are we talking about today? Well, we've mentioned this a few times in the show. Depending on what market you're in, real estate agents, typically the top 20% are doing 80% of the business. In some markets, the top 10% are doing 90% of the business. So in Minnesota, we've got over 20,000 real estate agents. The top 20% are doing, I think, more than that 80%. That's how the ratio is. So if you're a consumer, if you're a buyer or a seller, you need to hire an agent. We recommend hiring a top agent. And why do you want to do that? We'll talk about that through the show, throughout this segment. And really, you should interview your agent. And when you're doing that, you're going to come up with a handful of questions during that interview. For me, every time I go to a listing appointment or I'm meeting a buyer for the first time, that's a job interview for me. And so I want to make sure that, when I meet with sellers, I bring in my resume, I bring in my bio, my experience. I talk about the team, because you're not just hiring me, you're hiring me and my entire team. And then I talk about, all the different things that I've experienced and that my team's experienced over the years. And so as a consumer, I think a lot of times you might think, well, what questions should I be asking? you should be interviewing your agent to make sure they're the right fit. It's not always just about experience, or are you a top agent, or do you sell a ton of real estate, but do your personalities match? Is this someone that you're going to be excited and happy to work with for the next 60 or 90 days? Because as a seller and a buyer, this is not only a job interview, but it's a partnership that you're entering. And so, for us as agents, there are times where we're in that interview, or we're meeting with buyers or sellers the first time, and we decide as agents, you know what, it's just not a right fit. We wish you all the very best. Here's a couple other recommendations. I think maybe your personalities will mesh a little bit better. And obviously it goes the other way with the consumer. So what I want to do today is I want to go through some of these questions. Marcus, I'm gonna ask them to you, or shoot them over your way. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. But as a seller,
before you start, Jason, I think that's something too. It kind of is like a no-brainer, right, for sellers. It happens by default. If a homeowner's wanting to sell, they reach out to a licensed real estate professional and they ask him or her to come to their home, mostly because they want them to see the property. I mean, obviously, really good for your prospecting realtor to get eyes on the property that they may be likely providing a service to sell. And then in that process, it does kind of roll into, in a sense, like an interview situation. But one thing I think is just remarkable that I've seen in our industry is the lack of buyer due diligence when finding a realtor. And not always in a sense, their fault or their lack of understanding. I mean, they kind of get caught up in the excitement of an open house, or they found something that's very attractive online and they call, an individual and say, hey, I'd like to see this property. And they kind of forget those other steps, saying, hey, there are those opportunities that you want to take before you go house hunting. And one is finding a realtor and in a sense, sitting down with them and interviewing them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so today we're going to talk about some questions you can ask when choosing a realtor. Again, folks, the best way to get a hold of us anytime is our website, ushometalk.com. We've got a real estate hotline number set up during the show. You can text in your questions, whether they're related to today's topic or any other questions, really anything and everything real estate related, mortgage financing, new construction, investments. If you have insurance questions, we've got Evan here. Our text number to text in those questions during the show is 612-234-7585. You can text that number anytime during the show to get your questions answered. It's also our real estate hotline number, so you can connect with Marcus, myself, Mike, Evan, all of our fantastic partners. That number is available 24/7. It's 612-234-7585. Evan, thanks for putting up the graphics. Appreciate that. All right, so I'm a consumer. I'm a seller. I think I'm going to be the seller today, Marcus. You want to be the realtor, the top realtor?
That sounds fair.
All right.
What are we selling?
What are we selling? We're selling your home, baby, and we're going to sell it fast. All right. So one of questions that come up, and again, I'm going to play the role as a seller today because these questions are important to me. If I was not in real estate, or if I was going to buy or sell a home in a different market where I was not licensed, these are some things that I would ask agents that I'm interviewing. First one is, Marcus, how long have you been in the real estate business, residential real estate specifically?
Well, I think obviously great question. Personally, I've been a realtor, full-time realtor for almost 10 years now, and a vast majority of my business is residential. So that kind of covers that. But also, I started a team a couple years into the business, so my team has been up and running for about 8 years, and I work under Hague Realtors, a brokerage in my market that has been doing business since the 1940s. So quite a bit of resources, not only coming from myself individually, the team that I lead and represent, but also the brokerage itself too.
Okay, so that's a fantastic response, and you touched on a few additional items here that are really important. Full time. You're a full time real estate professional, folks. I do not believe that you can be successful in real estate on a part time basis. At least not in the beginning. Maybe if you've been in the business 20, 30, 40 years, you want to semi-retire and move into a part-time status, but you've got this big book of business and you have this, foundation of years and years of experience and success, then I think you can. But as a newer agent, it's not reasonable to even think that a part-time agent can give the same services as a full-time agent. And then take it a step further, a full-time agent and his or her team, right? And so these are great questions to ask. And I think some people think that real estate is, it's easy and certainly easier than what it is. A lot of people think. And so, I, as a seller, I want somebody that's full-time. I want somebody that has a team backing them up, because I know that one individual can't provide the same services as an individual with the team. Marcus, you talked about your company, right? So as a seller, you're not just hiring the agent and the agent's team, but you're also hiring the company. So a company like Hague Realtors has been around since the 1940s. I mean, boy, they're creeping up on almost 100 years here, right? I mean, that's a long time to be in the real estate business. The Remax, the company, the brokerage that I'm under, Remax has been around since the 70s. So we're coming up on 50 years. I don't think it's gotten to 50. It might be close to 50 years. But what does that mean? Can a brand new company be successful? Sure. But a company that's been around a long time, they're likely going to have, some deep roots in the community. They might have a larger network. They might have access to more tools and more strategies to sell your home for a higher amount in a quicker time. So a great first question. Another question that comes up. Okay, so you're a full-time agent, Marcus. You've been doing it almost a decade. You've got a team under you. You've got a great company, a great reputation. I think Hague is number one in the state of South Dakota, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're close up there between us and Keller Williams.
The KW, they've come into the market, huh?
Yep.
Do you have any designations? I know that I know you went to college. You got a 4-year degree. Do you have any real estate designations?
Another great question, and I mean it's kind of a two-part, right? There's designations and certifications when you're looking at hiring a realtor, and some are very specific to whether it is a buyer realtor or a seller realtor. I mean, I think it's fair to say that a lot of us realtors, we are representing buyers and sellers, but when we do have some of these bigger teams, there might be those situations where there might be an individual under a brokerage or a team that is buyer specific. And, with that, like I personally have my accredited buyer representative designation. And also I have my sellers representative specialist as well. And those are two very key additional designation certifications that a realtor can get. And more or less what that means is this individual, one, has to have had so much experience to qualify for it, but then most importantly, they need to take on more education. They need to get a more understanding of how to represent buyers at the highest level, how to represent sellers at the highest level. And Jason, kind of jumping back in time too, in terms of somebody who is full time, in the real estate market can change so quickly, by the season within a calendar year. And so, if you have somebody who is, working it full time and are Monday through Saturday, and they see the changes going on, they're going to be able to keep everybody well informed. But these designations help with that as well. We get e-newsletters, and we get mailers in the mail letting us know, like, hey, this is what other markets are seeing. Here's some great ideas on how to represent your client at the highest level. So those are very key. But that's definitely kind of a high level question. I don't think a lot of consumers out there know to even ask that question.
No, I think you're right. I think they don't know to ask that question. It's what I found over the years is we need continuing education every year, and so earlier in my career, a lot of those designations and certifications counted as CE credit or continuing education credit, and so I saw it as an opportunity. Well, I need the CE anyway. I might as well learn more about this different area. I think one of my first designations was GRI, Graduate Realtor Institute, and then relocation and working with sellers and builders and investors. And, I think I've got over a dozen designations or certifications at this point, but I found them to be valuable because I was learning something that I didn't know before. More of a niche or a specialty area in real estate. And so I want to be able to, that's the beautiful thing about this business is there's always something new to learn. They've got social media marketing designations that you can get now. And it gives us an opportunity to just hone in our skills, and really continue to maintain a real estate expert status, because we're continuing to learn and grow and maneuver as the business changes over the years. So, I as a seller, it's a great question. Do you have any certifications or designations? And then what are they? And how does that apply to me? If I'm asking that question, if I'm a seller and I'm asking that question, an agent, and the agent says, "Yep, I'm a certified buyer specialist," or I'm a certified commercial real estate negotiator, but has nothing to do with a residential home sale, well, that would be something to maybe consider. So today we're talking about you need to hire a top level agent. Or agent and team. And so when you're in that interview process, we've got some questions that you can ask. Best way to get hold of us anytime is our website, ushometalk.com. You can make in the comments on Facebook or YouTube, you can certainly ask questions in there. We have a real estate hotline number, which is 612-234-7585. You can text in questions during the show, but that's also our 24-hour real estate hotline number that allows you to connect with Marcus, myself, Mike, Evan, all of our fantastic partners. And again, we appreciate however you're listening to us, whether it's live or sometime later on one of the podcasting platforms. All right, let's go back to the questions. What is your business philosophy? I think that's a tough question for most agents. But as a seller, tell me about your business philosophy.
And that's something too, where again, you kind of lean on the your brokerage, right? A lot of brokerages are going to have a mission statement, and that's something that is important for your realtor to know, and even you kind of take it to the next level, especially if it's an individual who has a team. They can share their team philosophy too, and so it's kind of a two-part. We talk about being full-time and we mentioned a little bit about some experience and I definitely don't want people to be discouraged with working with somebody who may have be young in their real estate career, especially if they have these support systems like a brokerage and a team. Excuse me, because I'll tell you this, Jason. I know when I got into real estate, I had a conversation with you. And one thing that was very important that you shared with me was, right now the industry, what's the industry, the old industry norm or industry saying about, when you're a new realtor, you likely won't see your first paycheck for 3 to 4 months. Mm-hmm. And I remember having that conversation with you, and you said, that's kind of what everybody tells you, but to have the right foundation in place to service your clients at the highest level, it's more likely going to be closer to 6 months. You got to make sure that you have things in order to where you can represent your clients at the highest level. Have that foundation in place so then you can help these people make the most educated decisions with their real estate. And so that's something to where, when you do find out about these realtors, their philosophy, their brokers' philosophy, their individual philosophy, their team philosophy, that is something to where, if they have the right philosophy and it matches with what you're looking for, you can take on somebody. I mean, I would have hired you in a heartbeat, knowing that you've been 1 year in the business, because I knew how your approach to it. When you got into being a full-time realtor and went for it, it's, hey, this person's living and breathing it. I mean, probably at that time it was 85 hours a week,
That was a lot of hours.
So yeah. And it's that also that individual who has that honesty and integrity is top level priority. And it's like, hey, if somebody asks me a question that I don't know, I'm going to let you know I don't know that answer, but I know who I can maybe ask. And if they don't know, they're going to be able to, steer me in another direction, and we'll get that question answered for you, instead of just, oh yeah, fake it till you make it kind of a situation. So, I think that's a very good question to ask people what their philosophy is.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, a lot of times, consumers, I can remember, because back in the 08, 09 timeframe, I did a lot of short sales and a lot of foreclosures. And this kind of leads up to the next question. I had a potential seller that was interviewing me, and they said, well, how many listings do you have right now? And I think at the time I had 27 listings, 27 active listings.
And nice to have that right now, right?
I know, right? And the person was like, how many did you say? And I repeated it, and they said, well, how's that even possible? And how are you going to have time for me? And I explained to him, I said, look, it's not just me. I have a team backing me up, administrative support. We've, in that specifically, out of those 27, probably 21 of them were short sales. And so, we had a very specialized system to market and sell short sale properties. I explained it to him. Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to go with you. But the question is, the main question, the question that the consumer should be asking is, agent, how many deals did you do last year? How many did your team do? And they might even say, how many did your company do? Although usually it's, I want to know how many you did, and I want to know how many your team did. And that's a reasonable question. Does the number of sales always guarantee that you're going to have a great agent? Meaning, if you sell a ton of real estate, does that guarantee great service? Not necessarily, but it's more likely that the more transactions you do, the more experience that you have. The more experience that you have is going to likely lead to a better agent. So it's a reasonable and it's a really good question. I think you also brought something up, Marcus, just a minute ago. As a new agent, look, if you're brand new to the market, you have an opportunity to earn business from buyers and sellers, especially if you're on a team. When our newer agents go out and they meet with buyers and sellers, and I do the same thing. When I meet with sellers, it's I talk about me and my team. You're hiring me and my team. Because you're not just hiring one person, whether the one person's been in it 20 years and the new person's been in it 6 months, you're hiring the entire team. And so I think those are some just, great questions to ask and dig a little bit deeper. Folks, best way to get a hold of us anytime is our website, ushometalk.com. We have our real estate hotline number. You can text questions in during the show, which is 612-234-7585. You can post in the comment section below on Facebook and YouTube. Again, we appreciate you listening, whether it's live now or sometime later. We do appreciate everyone who tunes into the show. All right, some other questions. Here's another great question. If you're meeting with sellers, they might ask you, do you work more with sellers, or do you work more with buyers? I often get asked, what's your ratio of buyers to sellers? Meaning, how many sellers you work with in relation to how many buyers you work with. In our market, more than 50% of the sellers that we work with are also going to be buyers. And in some years, we've seen it as high as 75 or 80%. So, but it's a great question. Do you work more with buyers? Do you work more with sellers? And then tell me more about what your team does. So I think that, it is, it's a great question, whether you're a buyer or a seller, to find out, who does that agent work more with, buyers or sellers? And maybe it's 50-50. A lot of the agents on my team, they're just about right down the middle. Half their clients are buyers and half the clients are sellers. Another question that might come from a seller is, what is the sale price in relation to the original list price? These are stats that we bring all the time. And why is that important? Folks, there's something out there called buying the listing. And what that is that's when an agent comes in, he meets with a seller. He's got the presentation. The house is worth $400,000 and the seller thinks it's worth $420,000. And so the agent says it's worth $420,000. And then in 2 or 3 weeks, they say, well, we're overpriced. We got to reduce the price. They end up back to where the market value is, and it sells for probably less anyway, because they didn't price it correctly. So asking the question, what is your sale price in relation to original list price, will give you a great idea as a seller how accurate that agent and team is when pricing your home. The value of your home, it doesn't matter what you think your house is worth. It doesn't matter what Marcus or Jason thinks your house is worth. The market, based on comparable sales, will tell us what it's worth. It's data. So, we all have an opinion about our houses. Of course, I think my house is better than my neighbor's because I live there and whatever. But that's the beautiful thing about a professional, experienced agent. They're going to pull the data, and the data will tell you what it's worth.
And furthermore, ultimately, the data is going to get us pretty dang close, but ultimately the buyer is who determines what they're willing to pay for your property. So, and I think that experienced full-time realtor, they drop that ball so often, especially in a calendar year at this time, because they're taking data, they're doing their CMA, their comparative market analysis, based on what sold in the last 6 months. Well, we're in September, almost the end of it. October's coming around the corner. Mm-hmm. If they pulled their 3 best comps that sold in the month of May or June, is a different market than what it is today. So not being able to convey that message to a client, through experience, saying, hey, this is what the CMA says it's worth, but this is what I've seen with interest rates, buyer behavior. It's different. I don't know if we can get you this. This might actually be top dollar. We may even have to sell it for a little bit less. Buyers are going to let us know, and I think that's key. One thing, Jason, you kind of mentioned about that list price. Now, I don't know. You'll have to educate me here. I am licensed in Minnesota, but the vast majority of my business is in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota area, the Sioux Empire, and there is a tactic that a lot of realtors in my market use, is when they have a listing, they'll hit that 30-day mark, or when they do a price reduction, they don't reduce it on the MLS. They cancel the listing and then they relist it, to it. So when they do present data, it is something to where you can kind of play with those numbers a little bit, if that's the game that you're doing, online. I know certain markets, that kind of information, continues with it. So it is a great question to ask, can be very valuable, but those numbers can be fudged a little bit depending on how a realtor likes to go about price reductions and their listing contract terms.
Yeah, it's a great point, Marcus. Another question that we get often, can you recommend service providers for mortgage Title. Obviously, we do a ton of work with Mike Overson and his team at Luminate Bank. We work with Trademark Title, but it goes beyond real estate, mortgage, and title. We have established ourselves over the years as the go-to for anything to do with real estate. We have a free concierge service, a part of our team, so any of our clients have access to this. And not only do we have 20 plus partners, so I'm talking about lawn, snow care, and inspector, contractor, attorney, and insurance, whatever your needs are. But if we don't have a partner that we've been working with over the years, and you need something, we've had relocation clients call up and say, hey, I need to know what the best private school for special needs is. We have a daughter that is that's handicapped, and this is we need a private school. We need the top one that has services for special needs, and so we'll find it for you, and we did. And so as a top agent and top team, you need to have the resources and network and connections for really all of your clients' needs, anything and everything to do with real estate. And so, it also establishes good relationships, right? And so if you've got an agent that's got all these connections and can set you up with everybody, chances are they're probably doing pretty good business. That's why they
Good
have
business,
that good business. That's why they have that network. So another great question to ask.
I just had a conversation with an individual. She's looking to move from Florida up to the South Dakota, Sioux Falls area, and has some family that lives in the southwest corner of Minnesota. And one thing that she said with her property down in Florida, she has it listed, but is not happy with her listing agent and her listing brokerage. And one example she gave was that earlier this year, and it's not a property that has been on the market. It was more like a pocket listing, but earlier in the year, she asked for a painter referral, and the office's response was, "Oh, we don't do painter. We don't refer people out to painters." Mm-hmm. And it was like, what? You're trying to provide somebody with a high level of real estate service, and you can't even point them in the right direction to get some interior painting done. I mean, it was absurd when you hear it, and it's like, holy buckets, that's but it happens. I mean, some people, they you get them again, if you don't take these realtors through interviews and do your due diligence, you might get caught in a situation where you're under contract and you're not gaining you're getting very little service being provided.
And I know a ton of agents that won't refer or recommend anybody. I can tell you why most of the time that is the case. It's because probably they were burned, right? They referred somebody out and that person did a crappy job, and guess whose fault it is? Well, it's the person who referred it. That's the mindset of consumers, right? And it's happened to me. I've referred people out over the years because I've been doing this a while, and and that person or that company, they didn't do a great job, and that directly affected my relationship with my client. Now what did I learn from that? Well, what I've learned is to vet the people that we refer. And because I know that if I'm referring them, that is an extension of me and my team, right? Even though it's a different company, a different service, if it's coming from us, we're responsible for that in a certain way. And so, we take a lot of time to, research and vet and interview and make sure the people that we're referring, they're doing a great job and they have similar morals and values and business philosophies as we do. Does that mean everything's perfect, nothing ever goes wrong? No, it doesn't mean that. No,
we're all human.
We're all human. But if something does go wrong, we believe that the people that we are referring to will make it right. And if we have to step in to make sure that happens, we will do that. But I agree with you, Marcus. It just floors me when I hear agents like, "Oh no, I go to Angie's List," or something like, oh man.
I mean, obviously, they already know they can go to Angie's List. You know,
Right.
just that approach is just such
Go
a,
ahead and Google it.
you on Google. But you know, that's a great kind of a segue into, you know, another kind of the last thing to kind of talk about here today, Jason, is that that oh, what am I trying to say? The reviews. And you know, what client reviews, whether that's the realtor's reviews, or, you know, again, we're referencing maybe a network of people that we can refer out to, like other contractors. You know, having those reviews are very key. And if you're a consumer out there, it's okay to ask for, hey, do you have any client testimonials that you can share with me, and
Yep.
just to let me see, you know how these your last 3 deals have turned out, you know, what your clients have you know thought about the process and the representation that they had.
I do it all the time. In fact, I just did it. I hired a seller prospecting company called the Listing Referral Group, and they sent me 4 different names from clients that they currently are working with, that they've been working with for a long time, and I had an opportunity to talk to all 4 of them. You know, what is your experience? You know, tell me what it's been like working with these guys. And so, you know, it's important to ask the questions. You know, agents, if anybody hesitates to giving that information, you know, that should probably throw up a red flag or two. And really, all the questions that we talked about today, you know, those are all reasonable questions to ask somebody that you're hiring, especially as a seller and as a buyer, you know, and find out who you're hiring. You owe it to yourself to work with the best. And so we thought those questions would be helpful today. Folks, best way to get a hold of us, of course, is our website, ushometalk.com. You can reach us anytime, 24/7, 365. We do our show live every Wednesday at noon. It's on Facebook and YouTube. And then it's on all the streaming platforms, podcasting platforms afterwards. So we do appreciate however you're listening to us, whether it's live or later. We appreciate everyone's business, and we look forward to continuing to bring great content. We expect to have Mike back next week with all the croissants that he's eating. I do expect him to come back a little heavier than when he left, but we'll see.
I think he needs to ship us some.
He did. Ooh. Yeah, you just overnight it, right?
Right?
Can you overnight from France?
Why not?
All right, folks. Hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.